We're on. Okay, so first of all, I committed that I would comment on a request for guidance and encouragement that is outside of the specificity of the Gosho study. Do you remember Sling asked that? Yes, I am supposed to discuss that, right? I did promise that I would do that.
Yeah.
So,
Our fellow member from across the ocean, right?
yes, one of the people that listens to us, one of
Philadelphia?
our
Okay.
big group members has qualified that they have consistently have been asked for encouragement about relationships and about finding, generally speaking, these seems to be women's division, females looking for men. And how do you attract this Kosen Rufu family, whatever you want to call it. And so I am going to comment personal comments on that because there was a request that I included Gosho or some sort of teaching. I want to kind of explain how that works with Nichiren Buddhism as far as boys and girls stuff.
Okay.
Boys and girls stuff is set up kind of specific.
Love is love. Or girls and girls, or boys and
And
boys.
boys, yeah.
Right, doesn't matter. Yeah. Relationship is relationship, right?
Yeah, all years.
Okay, yeah, well, I assumed you would be. If nothing else, to see if I would make a fool of myself. So, first of all, it's always kind of funny to me when someone asks me, of all people, this kind of question. Because, most people know me recently enough that they reflect on my current relationship and, of course, 6 children and my loving wife and those kinds of things. And then they think, oh, you got what I want. How did you get it? Tell me the formula, okay? And the formula was really a process of many years of dealing with realities that brought me great pain and suffering without being able to truly identify the root cause for why I was experiencing those things. And in the process of trying to understand how those things could continue to happen in my life and why I couldn't change them, I realized that I was not being honest with myself and not realizing how much I needed to change. Okay, so every single one of these kinds of prayers, when you're talking about something that involves another person, I've said this many times, I'll say it again for those that haven't heard me say it. It's different than anything else you might pray about because it's not just your karma that's being reflected in the process of the resolution or the acquisition of that circumstance, okay? So it takes 2 people to tango. And sometimes people fall in love with other people that don't feel the same way toward them. Sometimes people make the desire to be in a relationship a fantasy or a wishful thing. They don't really apply themselves in ways that would actually put them in a position to be able to initiate or even start a relationship. If all you did, for instance, was stay on online dating services, scrolling all the potential people that are there saying they're looking for other people as well, and gossiping and doing all that kind of stuff, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get anywhere that's actually meaningful. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I'm saying some people they don't get outside. They just keep staying online. You have to take action. If you're, and this afflicts both men and women. And, there are a lot of lonely men too that would like the companionship of somebody that they can be with. But the thing that I think is important for women to realize is that men are completely different from them, from the perspective of what it is they're really wanting and what they're missing and seeking and thinking about most of the time. Okay? So women have to be realistic and honest with the fact that men are quite often attracted to relationships for physical, kinds of relationships, more so or as much as the aspect of companionship. They lack the depth of women. They are not as smart as women. They're not. They don't have as high a character as women. They're much more apt to lie. Okay, they're much more apt to do a lot of inappropriate things that can hurt the female in that circumstance. Okay, so if you're asking me as a female, how can I attract the right guy? How can I, basically you're saying, how can I find love? That's really the question. When you're asking me, how do I get a boyfriend? How do I find a husband? You're asking me, how do I find love? Okay, because love is the essence of that relationship that will last and stay in place. Because no relationship that you find is going to be the same from 24 hours to 24 hours to 24 hours, from week to week, from month to month. You will, if you're in a relationship, be growing older every single day you're in that relationship. Your significant other will be growing older also. Different karmas will begin to manifest in both of your lives that weren't there and were not inherently visible, okay, at the beginning of the journey that you both began together if you're going to be in a relationship. Do you understand? So you have to be prepared for the fact that this is going to be an ever-changing process, and devote yourself to try and make one that facilitates it being an ever-growing process. Okay? So, I mean, in other words, in a normal scheme of things, people are physically attracted to one another, and that physical attraction is a catalytic aspect of those couples forming as in whatever gender configuration it might be. Okay? But over time, statistically, it's a proven truth that they will have less physical activity in reality. Okay? Everything becomes more common. Things are more interesting and more exciting in the beginning because they're new. But once they have been experienced multiple times, they begin to lose some of the gloss that makes them so bright and shiny in the beginning. Okay, so the first thing you've got to do is you've got to be with someone that you can love, because they are going to change. Okay? And you're going to have somebody that loves you, because you are going to change. Okay? And men change in ways physically that are different than the way women change physically. Okay? So, now, if you're a female and you're wanting to be with a guy, and you're wanting a guy that really doesn't care what you look like, okay? Appearance isn't the important thing. He wants to know you because you're a wonderful, beautiful person. You are still going to have to do something to reflect that wonderful, beautiful person that involves caring about your appearance. You have to be realistic about the fact that you're trying to be attractive to someone. You're trying to attract someone. So, again, your faith cannot be based on an idle prayer. As you're taking this to the Gohonzon, you've got to be chanting for wisdom, to perceive yourself honestly, to perceive the things about yourself that might be annoying or putting people off, and to be willing to accept those as truths that it's time for you to change, and to start focus on those as adults, to actually make those changes in your life, so that the people that are waiting to be with you, every single person that has this feeling, I guarantee there's another person waiting for them. But that other person can't be in that individual's life until that individual's life has perfected in the manner that it will keep it from losing it, from driving it away. It's no good to find the ideal, perfect person if you haven't gotten your shit together enough yet in terms of faith and understanding of self. To not constantly be leaning on them, relying on them, or viewing them as something outside of yourself. They are a reflection of you. You're the bird and the wings deal. Go read the marriage address. Okay? So it has to be understood that that's really what you're looking for. Okay? That's the ideal. And just going and finding another SGI member is not the solution to that. Okay? Finding someone you can share your passion for faith with, automatic perfect couple. If the thing about you can have a lot in common. You can have, bird watching in common, or movies in common, or, likes of food, likes of literature, likes of physical appearance, like of physical activity. You can like to climb mountains. You can like to spend all day in bed. You can do lots of things that both of you are attracted to one another because there's that commonality about it, okay? But the greatest thing that you can have in any relationship is that the commonality be your desire to grow as the Buddha. That's really the bestest of all, okay? Because what does that say? That says that you're actually beginning the life that's free of delusion. You're embracing the Gohonzon from the perspective of truth. You no longer view life as a common mortal. You've taken on the Buddha eye to perceive life and others. You've achieved actual Ichiden Sanzen, which is available and accessible to all of you anytime you want to have the faith to accept that it's there, to bring it forward. Okay? So much of trying to find and be with another person has to do with not finding that person will find you. Once you've done the things necessary for you to get the kinks out of you, so that you can be the person necessary to be for that perfect person to be attracted to and to be with. Okay? So part of the thing that came from Marilyn was about, there are drinkers. Well, I'm an alcoholic. I'm a stone cold alcoholic.
She's there.
Yeah, I'm a stone cold alcoholic. I drank for a long, long, long time. I don't now. Why don't I drink now? Because I'm an alcoholic. Why did I quit drinking? Because I'm an alcoholic. I was going to die. It didn't mean, the fact that I was an alcoholic didn't disqualify me from being able to become happy. What I had to do was I had to bring forth the Buddha wisdom that allowed me to have the courage, strength, and clarity to perceive the truth about my life, that it was a reflection of me, and to stop that shit. Okay? Because there was nobody else that was going to stop that for me. And that was creating all kinds of scenarios in my personal life that were not making me happy. That all could be identified as seemingly separate things. But in reality, they were all an outflow of alcoholism. Okay? That was just one aspect of my personal growth over the last 64 years that I'm sharing with you. To let you know that, you have to be prepared for this to be a process of constant change. Okay? What your objective is, what your wisdom level is going to be constantly growing if you're doing the right thing, right? So, don't expect to find a perfect person. Okay? Because there are no perfect people. You included. What you're going to find constantly is a reflection of you. Because that's called karma. Okay? So when you find what you're finding is not reflecting what you want to see reflected, you've got to, first thing is not complain to the Gohonzon, hey, I'm not getting my benefit. You've got to realize, I got to change my mirror. I got to brighten my mirror. My mirror sucks. I don't like what's looking back at me. And what's looking back at me is me. Okay? That's really the key. And that's the beauty of it, because once I can really see me, if I don't like the way I look, I can start to change the way I look. But I can't change shit until I can see myself. That's why the Daishonin uses that example in the mirror in that Go show that I read you, where he says it's the difference between seeing a mirror from the front or seeing a mirror from any other angle. A mirror from any other angle, you don't see a reflection, so you don't get the benefit of a mirror. It's still a mirror sitting right there in front of you, because you didn't get to the part that actually creates the benefit in your life. You never are able to access it. It was always there, All you had to do was turn the freaking mirror around. That's no different than theoretical Ichinen Sanzen and actual Ichinen Sanzen. Okay, and that's what this whole subject actually gets down to. All right? So, you don't view your life as one lifetime only, do you? Why would you? That's not what the teaching says your life consists of. So, number one, this desire that you have to be with another person is never limited to something that you gotta find right now. Okay? Whatever feeling you're feeling, whatever emptiness or longing is there, is karma you created. It's not some Sancho Shima motivation that was put there to test you or drive you. You created that expedient means to force you to chant the Daimoku, to come up with the solution to get rid of that pain. And the solution to get rid of that pain is going to be the realization of your own Buddha nature ultimately. It's going to be the realization of the truth. Okay? That's the reason we have issues in the first place. Why are there no goshos on boyfriend and girlfriend fights or love deals? You won't find one. That's why when she says, where's the gosho? There's no gosho. You know, and President Ikeda's writing about the Soka Gakkai and the 60 or 70 or 80 years that shit's been going on. Do you think there haven't been all kinds of sexual scandals and people that fell in love and all kinds of secular intrigue that occurred within the organization? Of course there has. Okay? Why isn't it something President Ikeda writes out and starts giving guidance on so that we're all clear about it? There is no specific clarity to those issues because they're two people issues.
Yeah.
They're not individual issues. They can't be defined that way. They're only as good as any given moment and where those people are with the wisdom of how they're perceiving their own life. You're just a reflection of me. I quit looking at you as you. I see you as me. Everything around me is me. Okay? That's when I win. That's when, no matter what my spouse does, I love her to death because I have the wisdom to appreciate the nature of my relationship with her and the fact that it could never compare to any small circumstance of a small fight, a small disagreement, a small anything. Okay? I mean, it provides the depth.
I forgive you.
Yeah, thank you. That's my great fortune from having the correct attitude. And keeping my mouth shut at the crucial moment when I already knew what was going to happen if I tried to defend a completely worthless position, which was to be right. Okay? Which was delusion in the first place. Because right is always a perspective. It's not an absolute. Okay? So no one can say,
I'm right.
exactly. You didn't perceive it. You didn't experience it. You weren't conditionalized previously by many, many years of circumstances of being who you are. So, once again, now, so does everybody understand what I've tried to say so far as that subject is concerned? If you want to meet people and you want to be in relationships, the first thing you have to do is get your shit together. Now, if you really want to be in relationships, you have to get your shit together because if not, you will meet people and they won't turn into relationships. Okay? So, if you're wanting relationships in the absence of the focus of having your shit together, it's bullshit. You're kidding yourself. It's a waste, it's like somebody stop that person. They're not going to get what they're looking for and they're going to get discouraged and they're going to think the Gohonzon doesn't work. And it's not that the Gohonzon doesn't work, it's that they're not praying correctly. What their prayer is find me someone. I need someone. Find them for me. Okay? Rather than help me perfect my life so that I can be available for that correct reward to enter it. They're two completely different things. One is you're the Buddha. The other one is you're a beggar. You will never get the benefit that you're talking about right now by being a beggar. Okay? The beggars don't deserve that clarity. Seriously. They haven't cracked the wisdom line that's necessary. I mean, they're not going to be able to sustain it. Okay, if you can't even get that part squared away, that's fundamental psychology even. That's not even just Buddhism, right? Okay, so what I had started to read last week, and I'm going to read it now. There's one more point I want to make. Okay, when we get into boys and girls stuff, and this is the reason again there's no big preponderance of guidance on it. Okay? Because a lot of times when you get into boy-girl stuff, a lot of secular kind of opinion starts getting thrown in. It can get real religious. It can get real moral very quickly. People making judgments, you're not supposed to do that. Or that person is the one that started, again, it's just bullshit. It's topsy-turvy. It's nine-world stuff. All right? I want to remind you of this paragraph that I read last week from reply to Hikiri Saburo on page 409. And this is an important lesson. This is from the Daishonin to you. Remember this. Judging from these examples, and don't forget what had preceded here, he talked about all these evil dudes that were able to attain Buddhahood. Okay? So he's saying, judging from these examples, we may conclude that for evil people living in the latter age, which could be any of us, the attainment of Buddhahood depends not upon whether their offenses are slight or grave, but solely. What does solely mean? It means only, so it doesn't have anything to do with what they did. That's what he just said. He says, this shit has nothing to do with anything that you do or anything anybody else has done. So don't get moralistic and start saying sinner, sinner, bad person shit, making judgment of people. That's what I'm trying to say. But solely, it rests solely upon whether or not they have faith in the sutra. Period. Okay? That's all that matters. That's all that matters. When you start going down those little alleys, you're just going to run into dead ends. They're not going to get you change power. Change power realizes, okay, that's the truth. So I blow off all this personal hubris that makes me feel hurt or offended or better or whatever. That's all delusion. Okay? That's all delusion. Okay? So, remember that quote. Remember that perspective. Okay? Then, realize that to prove my point about this issue, I go to this section here. It says, this is like the quotable Nichiren, right? For anything that you gotta find some sort of reference, you just look up in the front and it tells you, okay, here's a bunch of quotes about this. So for marriage and partnership, okay. First quote is from WND 456. This is all about people that are already married. This one is about people already married. This one is about people already married.
Which page is that?
This is page 119. Just take a look at them. Take every bit of guidance. There's not a single bit of guidance about anything that's not a relationship that's already in place and that's not already completely solid. Okay? So there's no broken heart, I'm in love, I'm lonely. There's no go-shows like that. The only time he talks about loneliness is to show compassion towards widows whose husbands have died. Okay? Or it can be vice versa, or whose wives have died. Okay? There's not a big issue here of process of remarriage and that sort of thing. Okay? So are you with me? I mean, shows you right there. There's nothing for me to draw from. Now, what is the one thing that I would draw from in that question if somebody said, can you give us a teaching that lends itself? Think about what I just discussed with you openly, and then think of this Gosho and what it professes and says. It's on attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime on page 3. I've read it to you before. This isn't going to be the first time. If you wish to free yourself from the sufferings of birth and death you have endured since time without beginning, and to attain without fail unsurpassed enlightenment in this lifetime, you must perceive the mystic truth that is originally inherent in all living beings. This truth is Myoho Renge Kyo. Chanting Myoho Renge Kyo will therefore enable you to grasp the mystic truth innate in all life. So this starts with Daimoku to the Gohonzon. Not with the goal of finding a guy, but finding the person that really exists inside you, the true identity of your life. That true identity of your life is empowered to get anything it wants because it deserves whatever it desires. Okay? But it takes the specific effort to uncover that. Right? And that only occurs from Daimoku to the Gohonzon. You can study all of this, but if you don't study and then chant about what you've read and contemplate it, it's just a bunch of words. You don't advance. You know, your understanding doesn't advance. All right, is everybody with me?
Yes.
All right, so the Lotus Sutra is the king of sutras, so he's again qualifying. There's no other place to find the answer you're looking for.
Right.
True and correct in both word and principle. Its words are the ultimate reality. Its words are the ultimate reality, which means what you're experiencing. Its words are what you're experiencing. And this reality is the mystic law. What you are experiencing is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Okay? It's not something other than that. It is called the mystic law because it reveals the principle of the mutually inclusive relationship of a single moment of life and all phenomena. That is why this sutra is the wisdom of all Buddhas. Now, what does he say there? He says that it is called the mystic law because it reveals the principle of the mutually inclusive relationship of a single moment of life and all phenomena. So what does that say? That understanding that there is no separation between anything is the wisdom of all Buddhas. Okay? So, if you understand that when you make an effect on your own life, it will be reflected in the life that you see outside yourself. It will not appear to be coming from you, but it's absolutely only manifesting because of you. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. Life at each moment encompasses the body and mind and the self and environment. Right? So that covered it all, right? Of all sentient beings in the 10 worlds as all insentient beings in the 3,000 realms, including plants, sky, earth, and even the minutest particles of dust. All right? Life. Life at each moment. So there were a lot of insentient things. He qualified life. So he makes no distinction between anything. Okay? Life at each moment permeates the entire realm of phenomena and is awakened in all phenomena. In other words, your life is present in all other life. And all other life is present in yours. That's why there is no separation between you and the original teacher. That's why there is no separation between you and the original law of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. That's the whole premise of that. He says, to be awakened to this principle is itself the mutually inclusive relationship of life at each moment and all phenomena, which is Buddhahood. Do you follow? All right. Nevertheless, even though you chant, because you're hearing me profess this teaching, nevertheless, even though you chant and believe in Myoho Renge Kyo, find me that man, find me that woman, find me that, change my life for me, make it different for me, make this so it's this way. Okay? Nevertheless, even though you chant and believe in Myoho Renge Kyo, I'm doing this because I believe. If you think the law is outside of yourself, you are embracing not the mystic law, but an inferior teaching. You're praying like a provisional Buddhist. Okay? You're not praying like a Buddha, like a bodhisattva of the earth. Inferior teaching means those other than this Lotus Sutra, which are all expedients and provisional. No expedient or provisional teaching leads directly to enlightenment, which I've just said is the basis of finding this happiness for sure, guaranteed. And without the direct path to enlightenment, you cannot attain Buddhahood, even if you practice lifetime after lifetime for countless kalpas. Attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime is then impossible. Therefore, when you chant Myoho and recite Renge, you must summon up deep faith that Myoho Renge-kyo is your life itself, that the Gohonzon is not something outside of you, that the construct of what you're involved with your life, what you're manifesting with your Daimoku, what you're focusing on as you do Daimoku, is not something outside of you. There's not a Nichiren listening to each of us going, oh dude, that's serious, I'll get on that. No, no. Our Buddha nature, which is not separate from the original Buddha nature, manifests when we call it out. How do we call it out? We call it out by name. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. When that becomes manifest, the 10th world is activated in our life, and through Daimoku to the correct object of devotion, based on the principles of the correct teaching, we can change anything. And what changes the most? Our life condition. And what is the most attractive element of any interpersonal relationship? Your life condition. I don't give a shit how handsome or ugly you are. People don't really see that handsome or ugliness. They see your life condition. You know? That's what you can pump up without needing makeup for. That's what genes don't have a goddamn thing to do with. It doesn't matter how pretty mommy and dad were, or grandma and grandpa. Okay? Doesn't matter how you perceive yourself. When you perceive yourself as the Buddha, you are automatically a badass, no matter what is reflected in the mirror. And when you know that from the tips of your fingers to the ends of your toes, people know. Okay, so, again, you've got to, I'll continue reading this, but again, you've got to put yourself in a position where you can find people that are like-minded, find people, they don't have to be members, just people that you can establish a relationship with. If that person respects you enough, you're going to be able to introduce them to Buddhism in a way that you're able to explain it in a way that they will like, they don't have to be practicing 40 years to have the same faith.
No need to worry.
No, and you don't have to worry about this shit. But if you worry about it all the time, that's basically saying, I don't think the Gohonzon is going to do this.
You have no faith.
I'm not really sure I'm going to get this benefit.
Right.
I got to stress about this until I make myself sick, until I second guess everything I do, okay, until I slander the Gohonzon inadvertently. All right? I've read these very specific things to you, okay? Let me finish reading this Gosho because it's only another page. He says, you must summon up deep faith that Myoho Renge-kyo is your life itself. You must never think that any of the 80,000 sacred teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha's lifetime or any of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 existences are outside yourself. That includes Nichiren, right? So everybody's contained in me. All right? All their wisdom, all the merit of their good causes is all contained in me also, by the way, right? If you seek enlightenment outside yourself, then you're performing even 10,000 practices, and 10,000 good deeds will be in vain, because you will not attain enlightenment that way. It is like the case of a poor man who spends night and day counting his neighbor's wealth, but gains not even half a coin. That is why the Tentai School's commentary states, unless one perceives the nature of one's life, one cannot eradicate one's grave offenses. And to be lonely or to have the fear of being alone, this is karma. Okay? This is a suffering,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a suffering, you can defeat that suffering. But only by virtue of perceiving the source is you. It's not your bad luck. Nobody shit on you. This isn't, something that you got screwed over about. It wasn't that lousy husband with the drinking problem. It wasn't that terrible wife that yelled at you every day until you couldn't stand it anymore and you left. This is about perceiving the nature of one's life. So, until you identify all of your problems as being you, you're gonna fall short. That's the only way when you have issues with the other person, when you find them, that you're able to constantly correct them without them becoming things that create split. Because when you get in front of the Gohonzon, no matter how pissed off you are at the other person, your doubt-free faith and your actual Ichi and Sanzen immediately kick in. You can't even begin to start bitching about them. You get corrected the minute, okay, boy, I'm up again. Okay. Okay. And then you apologize, and you apologize sincerely, and you apologize for the right reason. And the cool thing is, it doesn't matter if they don't accept your apology.
Yeah.
They're screwed then. You're the one that chanted the correct Daimoku. Yes.
Yes.
This is all about how do I maintain myself as the magnet? Okay? That's it. I want to attract all the iron. How do I make myself the Buddha? I don't have to worry about anybody else.
No.
They all become iron at that point. Do you understand? All right, so he says, the passage implies that unless one perceives the nature of one's life, one's practice will become an endless, painful austerity. Chanting and chanting and chanting and never getting the benefit that you're chanting for. Wanting and wanting and wanting the guy, the relationship, and I'm going to be too old to have kids. All kinds of things go through women's minds that are very serious and legitimate issues. But they will stay unfulfilled as long as they're not given the correct guidance. Just go chant Daimoku is not enough to fix this. Okay? And you're not even beginning to ask for wisdom. Nobody's saying, go seek wisdom. Those are the things you need to encourage people to do. You need to tell them, go read on attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime. This is all about actual Ichi and Senzen. This is all about the challenge for your particular life, your particular karma that leads you to actual Ichi and Senzen. Not all of us attain actual Ichi and Senzen for the same reason. We all have different motivations. But it's almost always pain. It's almost always pain.
Yeah.
All right, so whether you chant the Buddha's name, recite the sutra, or merely offer flowers and incense, all your virtuous acts will implant benefits and roots of goodness in your life. So while you're doing this, you don't expect the guy to show up the next day, but you stay on that happy course. You don't lament. You don't have a bad attitude. You accept fully your responsibility for your own life. All right? He says, with this conviction, you should strive in faith. The Vilamakirti Sutra states that when one seeks the Buddha's emancipation in the minds of ordinary beings, one finds that ordinary beings are the entities of enlightenment, and the sufferings of birth and death are nirvana. It also states that if the minds of living beings are impure, their land is also impure. But if their minds are pure, so is their land. There are not two lands, pure and impure in themselves. The difference lies solely in the good or evil of our minds. So if you're walking around in an evil world, pissed off because you don't have the people in your life that you want in your life, okay? Your mind isn't right. This is a reflection of you, okay? There's only one way to correct it. Quit blaming anybody but you. And don't walk around blaming yourself. Accept it as the challenge that it is and change it. It can be changed, but not unless you change. You have to change who you are. You can't just chant more Daimoku and be the same and not do anything differently.
No.
You can't just sit in front of the Gohonzon and never move and never meet anybody. You can't, not ask people out because you're the girl. Okay? You got to find people that are friends that are going to be ultimately sexually attracted to you, that you can have common denominator fun with, and the rest of it's natural. You don't have to plan it. It happens. It's karma. None of those relationships occur without having already occurred in the past in the first place, the Daishonin says. Okay? Those relationships are never by chance. Those relationships are always a reflection of past lives. Now, what the hell did you do in your past life to drive those people so far away? That's what you got to figure out. And if you can figure out being a better person would be a great first step towards rectifying that, you'll find people attracted to you. And you'll find the right people attracted to you. It is the same with a Buddha and an ordinary being. When deluded, one is called an ordinary being, but when enlightened, one is called a Buddha. This is similar to a tarnished mirror that will shine like a jewel when polished. A mind now clouded by the illusions of the innate darkness of life is like a tarnished mirror, but when polished, it is sure to become like a clear mirror, reflecting the essential nature of phenomena and the true aspect of reality, which will allow you to get whatever you want. Arouse deep faith and diligently polish your mirror day and night. How should you polish it? Only by chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. What then does Myo signify? It is simply the mysterious nature of our life from moment to moment, which the mind cannot comprehend or words express. So don't try. When we look into our own mind at any moment, we perceive neither color nor form nor verify that it exists. Yet we still cannot say it does not exist, for many differing thoughts continually occur. The mind cannot be considered either to exist or not to exist. Life is indeed an inclusive reality that transcends both the words and concepts of existence and non-existence. It is neither existence nor non-existence, right? That's the middle way. Yet exhibits the qualities of both. It is the mystic entity of the middle way. That is the ultimate reality. Myo is the name given to the mystic nature of life, and Ho to its manifestations. Renge, which means lotus flower, is used to symbolize the wonder of this law. If we understand that our life at this moment is Myo, then we will also understand that our life at other moments is the mystic law, Myo. This relationship is the mystic Kyo, or sutra. This is the teaching that we learn that allows us to understand this truth. The Lotus Sutra is the king of sutras, the direct path to enlightenment, for it explains that the entity of our life, which manifests either good or evil at each moment, is in fact the entity of the mystic law. So Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is always what's manifesting, whether it's good or evil. That's why you don't get into all that secular bullshit about judging people's morality. It's completely inappropriate. And a crock of shit. If you chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo with deep faith in this principle, you are certain to attain Buddhahood in this lifetime. If you attain Buddhahood in this lifetime, you will be with the person that you want to be with. Trust me, it will work out that way. You won't have loneliness in your life. All right? That is why the sutra states, after I have passed into extinction, one should accept, uphold it, and uphold this sutra. Such a person assuredly and without doubt will attain the Buddha way. Never doubt in the slightest. Maintain your faith and attain Buddhahood in this lifetime. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Actual Ichinen Sanzen, actual Ichinen Sanzen, actual Ichinen Sanzen. That's all he's talking about. Attain Buddhahood in this lifetime. What is he saying? What does he say? This whole Gosho I just read to you, what is that really all about? It's about actual Ichinen Sanzen. It's about actually being the Buddha in your present form without changing anything about yourself. It's what we talk about constantly. Okay? And how are we doing on time?
12 minutes. 10 minutes.
Let me since we only got 10 minutes, let me go ahead and finish this issue for this subject. And again, go back to this. I already told you again, Shinya Tomi, he passed away,
Yeah.
you know, and he wrote this book and left it. And I just want to read what he happened. You know, I just happened to stick this in on the way to Australia because it was small. After I mentioned it at the meeting, I thought, I'll stick this in because, you know, it's little. I'll read it. And then that was after the question had been asked. And then I just happened to read like, holy shit. Oh my God. This is ideal. Oh, wow. Okay, Shin, you covered my butt. All right, so let me read this to you. The problem of faith, and this is an important thing. This really goes back to everything that I've already just discussed. He says, and you know, Shinya told me they're real high on Soka spirit, okay? So seeking spirit, Soka, like, you know, life devoted to Kosen Rufu kind of a thing. So he's going to mention Soka spirit a few times here. You know, understand that. The Soka spirit movement is a goldmine of opportunities to learn more about Nichiren Buddhism. The basics of faith are now cast in new light, revealing their deeper meaning in contrast with the Nichiren Shoshu priesthood's erroneous views. For this reason, one's understanding of the Soka spirit will naturally translate into greater joy and benefit based on a clearer view of faith. And by the way, everything I teach you is a Soka spirit outlook. Trust me, it's not a priesthood outlook. Because it's based on what President Ikeda writes, and that's Soka spirit's source. Okay? The meaning of faith, this is so great, because it's going to be so important to anybody you're going to encourage on what we discussed. Right? The meaning of faith, for example, once required a simple explanation, such as belief in the Gohonzon, the object of devotion in Nichiren Buddhism. Many Nichiren Buddhists assumed that it was impossible to have wrong faith in the correct object of devotion. Faith, as long as it was placed in the Gohonzon, was a matter of strong or weak, not of right or wrong, they believed. Is everybody with me? These are very important distinctions that are now being qualified. All right? Now, thanks to the priesthood, because it is thanks to the priesthood that these issues are now able to be qualified, because we don't have them holding us back, we are learning that what matters is not only what we believe in, but also how we believe in it. That what people sometimes think of as faith in the Gohonzon can be a problem. Regarding the significance of the Gohonzon, Nichiren Daishonin states, never seek this Gohonzon outside yourself. Interpreting this passage, the priesthood asserts the Gohonzon to which he refers is not the correct object of worship which one should worship. The Gohonzon to which he refers is the life of the Buddha nature endowed within our bodies. Okay? The priesthood here separates the object of devotion from our inherent Buddha nature. In other words, the Gohonzon to which we pray and the ultimate reality of our lives are two different things, or so the priests say. Okay? The priesthood's view of faith, however, contradicts Nichiren's teaching. As he admonishes us, when we revere Myoho Renge-kyo inherent in our own life as the object of devotion, which is what we're doing when we're chanting correctly, the Buddha nature within us is summoned forth and manifested by our chanting of Nam Myoho Renge-kyo. We call it forth. We call the 10th world forth to participate in our 9-world reality. That's Buddha wisdom in those 9 worlds. Those who follow the priesthood's teaching say that they believe in the Gohonzon, yet the way they do it is the exact opposite of what Nichiren teaches. The innermost reality of their prayer, whether they are conscious or unconscious of it, is more likely the Gohonzon is all-powerful and worthy of respect, but I'm nothing, except inasmuch as I receive blessings through my faith in its power. Do you understand?
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what I was just talking about a while ago. The meaning of prayer. Those who pray this way grow dependent, passive, and weak. That's why they don't have boyfriends yet. They remain insecure and frustrated because they separate themselves from the solution to their suffering and thus have no control over their existence. Do you understand? They separate themselves from the solution to their suffering. What's the solution to their suffering?
Change.
Faith.
their own Buddha nature. No, they got faith, but their faith is that the Gohonzon is an all-powerful thing outside themselves.
Outside themselves.
They think that's faith. That's why this is when faith is a problem. When you don't understand what the hell faith is. With faith, the Gohonzon, outside of me, God. Okay? I have all kinds of faith, but that is not correct faith. Trust me, I went through the process of making this correction on my own.
So you mean everybody have the faith, but it's identified.
You must understand that you are the Buddha. This is all about actual Ichinen sons, and this isn't to dress up and glorify Nichiren. This is to make you the same as Nichiren. If you don't perceive your life to be worthy of that, how can you be?
Right.
Okay? So if the Gohonzon is Nichiren, the all-powerful out of me thing, how can I become Nichiren? How can I become that power? You can never become that power. So, yeah, you have been, in that, I have cut myself off from the solution to those sufferings. Those prayers cannot be answered because I'm looking for something that doesn't exist to answer them. I'm looking for a Buddha that is outside of me, that listens to my prayers like Amida and answers them for me. Not me, the Buddha, doing it through my own activated 10th world in my own 9-world body.
Not the bomb.
Right? Do you understand?
Yes.
This is the teaching of Nichiren. This is the teaching of the Soka philosophy. This is why we don't do what the priesthood says.
Yes.
Because they have incorrect understanding. The correct understanding came about through the practice of, in the actual Sahe world of the Soka Gakkai after World War II. That's where this understanding comes from. All right? So, he says, the contradiction. Okay. Meaning of prayer. Those who pray this way grow dependent, passive, and weak. They remain insecure and frustrated because they separate themselves from the solution to their suffering and thus have no control over their existence. In contrast, genuine faith in the Gohonzon is to develop confidence in the unconditional value of our lives as Nichiren encourages us.
Yes.
The unconditional value.
Right.
You yourself are a thus come one, who is originally enlightened and endowed with the 3 bodies of a Buddha, he tells us. You should chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo with this conviction from page 299. Our faith in and reverence of the Gohonzon, therefore, must be reflected back to our faith, to ourselves as faith in and reverence for our own life. Do you understand? Yeah. When we're chanting to the Gohonzon, it's not outside of it. It is our life.
Yes.
Okay? It is the Buddha nature that we're experiencing as we sit in front of it chanting Daimoku. Our innate Buddha nature is the object of fundamental respect. It's a piece of paper otherwise. That's theoretical Ichinen Sanzen. Okay? When we open it up as the life of Nichiren connecting to the life of our own, actual. Our innate Buddha nature is the object of fundamental respect as it is represented in the Gohonzon. It must be recognized, cherished, and praised daily through prayer. Any form of self-disparagement, therefore, should have no place in faith or in prayer. So, if you're down in yourself as not being worthy of having a good guy, you're a shit woman or you're a shit man, you're not good enough to have a righteous partner, you won't. You won't, because you're making the karma there for that to be the case. You're disparaging yourself, and your own disparaging, you're sealing your own coffin. Do you understand? So if that's what's going through your head, better get rid of that shit as soon as possible, because that's why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. Straight up. To see our supreme potential as Buddhas and to respect ourselves despite our momentary appearance or the opinions of others are of far greater significance and much more difficult than to humble ourselves before some omnipotent entity. This is why genuine faith requires courage. But every bit of courage we exert to praise our lives will be richly rewarded with hope and freedom. And I want to read one more, and I know I'm probably over time, but it doesn't matter. This is the one that's too perfect, and you should read The Way We See Ourselves, because it's a great prelude to what I'm going to read. But I'm going to read to you what love is not. Okay, so since this whole subject is trying to find a partner or someone that will love you, I think it's very important for people also to understand what love is not. Okay? Because a lot of times people think codependency is love, and it's not. It's a psychological condition, and you need to try and get it fixed. Love is not love, Sonnet 116. As Shakespeare writes, this seems to be love may not be love at all. What seems to be love may not be love at all. As much as the subject of love occupies many people's minds and perhaps much of their time and money, their greatest concern appears to be confined to finding love or becoming lovable in the eyes of others rather than the meaning of love or the capacity for loving. That was deep. I don't know if you all got that. That was very true words. The underlying assumption of this attitude may be that love is a feeling of pleasure and comfort stimulated only by an external object. The usual remedy for life without love, therefore, is to find someone new and better. Erich Fromm, a noted psychologist and social philosopher, considers love an art that requires knowledge and effort. And I will agree with him.
Yes.
Knowledge and effort. I'll go more clearly. Wisdom and the clarity of karma. All right? Let's see. He says, he defines love as the active concern for the life and growth of that which we love. Ooh, wasn't that heavy? What is love? Love is the active concern for the life and growth of that which we love. In terms, so he's saying it's completely selfless. Real love is not about what you get out of it. It's what the person that you love is going to be getting.
Right.
Is getting. Okay? So, he's saying if love is one's capacity to wish and act for the happiness and freedom of another person, a fundamental solution to the suffering of love must be sought not outward, but in the development of the character and inner strength that make us capable of loving more genuinely and powerfully, which is what I was talking about before. Mastering the art of loving. One of the greatest obstacles to the joy of loving is our desire for control. People sometimes mistake their wish to control others for loving concern. They may think of themselves as affectionate, yet their love may be a disguised desire to manipulate others for personal gain. In his writing, Nichiren Daishonin often uses a mythic Buddhist creature called the Devil King of the Sixth Heaven as a metaphor for the deep-seated human desire to control others. Indeed, another name for this Devil King, Japanese Takajizitsen, literally means the heavenly being who makes free use of others. Through this lively descriptions of this devil, Nichiren indicates the importance of becoming aware and vigilant of our desire to use others as a means to our selfish ends. Since dependency is essential to control, the Devil King uses various schemes to make people dependent on him. One of his main tools to encourage dependency is to manipulate through feigned affection. Despite the general perception of the Devil King as a fierce monster, he is adept at appearing affectionate. To lure people and keep him under his control, the Devil King is said to make himself look like a Buddha or a parent. For example, Nichiren writes, the Devil King of the Sixth Heaven is endowed with the Buddha's 32 features and manifests the Buddha's body. He also quotes from a Buddhist commentary which states, so long as a person does not try to depart from the sufferings of birth and death and to aspire to the Buddha vehicle, the devil will watch over him like a parent. In fact, there is even a type of devil in the Buddhist tradition called the devil of compassion. Those who are eager Those who are eager to control others often appear affectionate with the aim of keeping others dependent materially or emotionally. In Ibsen's play A Dollhouse, the seemingly affectionate yet controlling husband, Torvald Helmer, reminds his wife Nora of his love expressed in the form of financial support. My pretty little pet is very sweet, but it runs away with an awful lot of money. It's incredible how expensive it is for a man to keep such a pet. The truth of love. In other words, again, trivial life, it's all about control. It's all about control. You control them with money. You can tell them where they can go, where they can't go, where they can be, where they can't be, when to be home, when not to be home. Men do it, women do it. It is easy to make control and dependency for love. The appearance of selfish love, like that of the Devil Kings, is deceptive, for its selfishness does not show as long as the recipient of such feigned affection remains submissive. As Nietzsche points out, the Devil King is affectionate so long as a person does not try to depart from his control. Some people may give anything to their loved ones only to keep them dependent. Those obsessed with control, however, usually find it difficult to wish for the genuine happiness and independence of others. Instead, they hope to see others deprived in one way or another in order to maintain their sense of superiority and control. As Nietzsche writes, the nature of this Devil King is to rejoice at those who create the karma of the three evil paths, and to grieve at those who form the karma of the three good paths. To test our love, in this sense, lies in our sincerity to encourage and work for the self-reliance and freedom of our loved ones. Those who thrive on domination may easily show pity for others in suffering, while inwardly delighting at the sight. The misery of others affords those in control yet another opportunity to show their superiority and thereby remind those suffering of their need for dependency. At the core of a relationship built on domination and submission lies a profound sense of insecurity and powerlessness on both sides. Those who like to dominate cannot accept their own existence on their own, so they must derive a sense of power by subjugating others. Similarly, those who easily submit to an external authority cannot see their self-worth, so they feel compelled to become part of someone better and stronger by abandoning their identity and integrity. To such submissive people, control means protection against their own insecurity. Those submissive to an external authority do not see their lives as worthwhile, nor can they endure the emptiness of having no one for whom to live. Instead, they seek an external object with which to merge their identity to avoid facing the weakness and emptiness in their lives. The symbolic relationship between the dominant and the submissive is disturbed when the submissive party uncovers his or her self-worth and develops the inner strength to become independent. This is the dominant party's insecurity will surface, then the dominant party's insecurity will surface as frustration and anger. Nietzsche, and he's describing dependency, codependency, which is a classic psychological reality. Codependency, he just described what codependency is. Nietzsche and follows descriptions illustrate the Devil King's intense fear and anxiety in this regard. When we thus draw near to achieving Buddhahood, the Devil King of the sixth heaven, Lord of the threefold world, reasons, if these persons should all become Buddhas, I will suffer loss on two counts. First of all, if they free themselves from the threefold world, they will escape my control. Second, if they become Buddhas, their parents and siblings will also depart from the Sahe world. And how can I stop this from happening? When an ordinary person of the latter age is ready to attain Buddhahood, this devil is greatly surprised. He says to himself, this is most vexing. If I allow this person to remain in my domain, he will not only free himself from the sufferings of birth and death, but will lead others to enlightenment as well. Moreover, he will take over my realm and change it into a pure land. What shall I do? To love truly. Everybody understood that? So again, that's the influence of your own life. It's the same kind of a jealousness for controlling your innate nature. Your fundamental darkness versus your fundamental innate enlightened nature. have that same codependency, sway thing going on that you might have with another individual. Did you understand? So the devil king is just like a boyfriend or girlfriend that is very obsessively, compulsively in love with you. To love truly. The devil king does not want anyone to attain enlightenment and become free, since that would be a painful reminder of his own powerlessness and dependency. The paradox of this devil king who dwells at the summit of the world of desire and rules over the threefold world is that he is controlled by his own desire to control. The devil king is a ruler who cannot rule himself. The more control he has, the more of it he needs. He is perpetually driven by his inner weakness and insecurity, never feeling satisfied. Sounds like Donald Trump to me. He is a prisoner of the prison he himself creates. Although he is said to make free use of others, he is never free of the innermost reality of his life, which is his own dissatisfaction with his life. The king devil, therefore, is incapable of loving. Incapable of loving. The devil king is said to dwell in the sixth and highest heaven of the world of desire, but his love results only in profound unfulfillment and suffering beneath its heavenly pleasure. As William Blake knew, such selfish love seeketh only self to please, to blind another to its delight, joys in another's loss of ease, and builds a hell in heaven's despite. To love truly, we must be free. To be free, then, we must discover our innate self-worth. In Shakespeare's sonnet quoted earlier, he also wrote, Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. One of the greatest impediments to our ability to love is delusion about the truth of our inner life. Buddhahood, our own Buddhahood. You know, we think it's all theoretical Ichinen Sons, and we're not even trying to do actual Ichinen Sons. And we don't even understand that that's the whole thing we're supposed to be practicing for. We thought it was just to tell people about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and go to SGI meetings. No, it's to achieve actual Ichinen Sons and Buddhahood in our present form. Yes. Such delusion leads to powerlessness and dependency. The mythic devil king is symbolic of this delusion. As Nichiren writes, the fundamental darkness manifests itself as the devil king of the sixth heaven. To shed light on this fundamental darkness through strengthening our confidence in Buddhahood, then, is an essential practice for the art of loving. Okay? And you should have that as part of the ideal that you're seeking when you're trying to find your true mate. All right? So it begins with you. It doesn't begin with that other person. And it begins with your prayer being correct, not the fact that you're making a prayer. Do you understand? If you're making a prayer and it's not being fulfilled, you should understand, I need to look at this prayer. I'm being told something here. No prayer goes unanswered. But an incorrect prayer will always be unanswered, because an incorrect prayer's function is to lead you to the wisdom of perceiving the truth by virtue of knowing that no prayer goes unanswered, and therefore seeking the truth in the absence of what seems to be no truth, finding it was always filled with truth. It was your own limitation, your own delusion that kept you from seeing that. That's how you become the Buddha. Becoming the Buddha is to understand all this stuff, and it's like a switch. It's weird. You hit that switch, a really cool thing happens. Really? So hit the switch, damn it. Okay? Did we use up all our time?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. Next week we will start again. And I wanted to, again, at least bring up the casting off the transient and revealing the true, but I'll get into that next week when we start again on page 98. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.